A Harvard scientist climbs into a sensory deprivation tank with a psychedelic compound so ancient a Mexican shaman used it to speak to the dead. What comes out of that tank is not a man, and the real person who inspired this story, a government-employed neuroscientist, was doing things in real life that were so far beyond what this film depicts, that Hollywood had to dial it back just to make it believable. This is Altered States. This is the film 5 legendary directors refused to make. This is the occult text that has been hiding inside a 1980 horror movie for 45 years. Welcome to occult cinema, where the screen is the sigil. JESSUP, the wound, the man, the obsession. Before we go anywhere near the tank, you need to understand the man who climbed into it. Edward JESSUP is not a scientist who became obsessed. He is a wounded child who became a scientist because the wound demanded an answer that religion refused to give him. His father died slowly, painfully. A man of deep faith, destroyed by cancer, calling out to a God that never came. The boy watching that death didn't just lose his father. He lost the entire framework that was supposed to make the world make sense. God didn't show up. And the silence that filled that absence never left him. This is the Fisher King wound. In Arthurian mythology, the Fisher King is a sovereign who carries an unhealable injury, and whose kingdom wastes and decays around him while he waits for someone to ask the right question. JESSUP's kingdom is his marriage, his relationships, his capacity for human connection, all of it slowly dying while he chases an answer in the dark. He is brilliant. Genuinely, frighteningly brilliant. But brilliance in a wounded man is not a gift. It is a weapon he turns on himself. He doesn't use his intelligence to build a life. He uses it to construct an elaborate philosophical justification for why the search matters more than the people watching him disappear into it. He replaces God with science, not because he stopped believing, but because he never stopped needing to believe in something. The laboratory becomes the cathedral. The tank becomes the confessional. The experiment becomes the prayer. He is not a secular man. He is a deeply religious man who lost his religion and rebuilt it out of data and isolation. And here is what makes him genuinely dangerous. He is not wrong. The questions he is asking are real questions. Is there a self beneath the self? Is there a consciousness older than the one we walk around with? What lives at the bottom of the human mind if you strip away everything civilization put there? These are not crazy questions. They are the oldest questions. The problem is not the question. The problem is that JESSUP is willing to pay any price for the answer, and he never stops to ask whether the price should be paid by him alone. The float tank. Now we introduce the vessel. John C. Lilly invented the isolation tank in 1954 while working at the National Institute of Mental Health. The United States government funded his research. The original purpose was straightforward. What happens to human consciousness when you remove all external stimulation? Does the mind shut down? Does it generate its own reality? The answer was immediate and startling. The mind does not shut down. It accelerates. Freed from the constant processing of external data, the brain turns inward with extraordinary intensity. Lilly described the experience as the most profound of his life. He kept going back. And then in the 1960s, he combined the tank with LSD, then ketamine, then mescaline. He floated for hours, sometimes days, in complete darkness and silence, injecting compounds directly into his bloodstream, and reported experiences so far outside the boundaries of normal consciousness that his colleagues stopped taking him seriously and he stopped caring. He claimed contact with alien intelligences. He claimed to have traveled outside his own body. He claimed to have accessed what he called the Earth Coincidence Control Office, a kind of cosmic administrative body governing human experience. He wrote books about it. He kept his government credentials. He kept doing the experiments. The film dials this back considerably. JESSUP is eccentric but credible. Lilly in real life had left credibility so far behind that it was no longer visible on the horizon, and yet his core discovery, the one that started all of it, holds up. Sensory deprivation does produce profound alterations in consciousness. The research is real. The tank works. What Lilly understood, and what the film encodes, is that the isolation tank is not a new invention. It is a new container for a very old practice. Every shamanic tradition in human history has a version of it. The vision pit, the sweat lodge, the cave, the desert, the 40 days of isolation, the dark night of the soul. Every tradition that takes consciousness seriously has developed a method for removing the initiate from the world and forcing a confrontation with what lives beneath the social self. The tank is that, stainless steel and salt water instead of stone and darkness, but the same function, the same purpose, the same terrifying potential. JESSUP didn't invent a new way to find God. He built a more efficient version of what shamans have always known. The question was never whether it would work. The question was always whether he was ready for what it would show him. He was not. The psychedelic ceremony. The tank alone is not enough. JESSUP knows this. The tank strips the external world away, but the mind fills the silence with its own noise, its own defenses, its own constructions. To go deeper, he needs something that dissolves the constructions themselves. He finds it in Mexico, with the Huichol people. The Huichol, the Wixaritari, are one of the few indigenous cultures in the world that has maintained an unbroken shamanic tradition into the modern era. Their central sacrament is peyote, hikuri, which they do not treat as a drug. They treat it as a deity, a living intelligence. The ceremony to obtain it involves a sacred pilgrimage to Wirikuta, a journey that is itself a ritual death and rebirth. You do not simply take peyote among the Huichol, you earn it, you prepare for it, you approach it with the understanding that what you are about to encounter is not a hallucination. It is a meeting. The spirit guide of the ceremony is the deer. In Huichol cosmology, the deer and the peyote are brothers. Both are sacred, both are sacrificed, both carry the seeker into the presence of the divine. The deer leads you through the visions. It is the psychopomp, the guide between worlds. JESSUP takes the compound. He enters the ceremony. And the ceremony does exactly what it was designed to do. It takes him apart. This is the moment the Faustian bargain is made. Faust didn't sell his soul in a moment of weakness. He sold it in a moment of absolute clarity, knowing exactly what he was trading and deciding the knowledge was worth the price. JESSUP enters that ceremony as a scientist collecting data. He leaves it as something else entirely. A man who has touched something so ancient and so vast that the laboratory framework he brought with him is now completely inadequate to contain it. The shaman warns him, "The compound takes you back to the dawn of being. Back before language. Before thought. Before the self that thinks it is asking the questions." JESSUP hears this as a description of an interesting experience. It is actually a warning about what he is about to lose. The seven-eyed lamb and the vision symbolism. The unconscious does not speak in words, it speaks in images, and the images it chooses are never random. In JESSUP's first isolation tank session, before Mexico, before the ceremony, before any of the escalation, he sees a seven-eyed lamb nailed to a crucifix. This is Revelation 5:6. Verbatim. The lamb as it had been slain, having 7 horns and 7 eyes, which are the 7 spirits of God sent out into all the earth. John of Patmos wrote this in the 1st century. JESSUP's unconscious retrieves it in a Harvard laboratory in 1967. The image did not come from nowhere. It came from the deepest layer of a mind shaped by a dying father and a shattered faith. And it came in the language that layer speaks, the language of apocalypse. The shroud of Turin ignites. Fish swim through the sky. The gilded Bible bleeds. These are not random surrealist images. Each one is a specific desecration of a specific sacred object. The shroud, the physical imprint of Christ's body, the proof of the resurrection, burns. The fish, the earliest Christian symbol, the sign of the believer, floats free of the water, unmoored from its element, belonging nowhere. The Bible bleeds instead of being read. JESSUP's unconscious is not searching for God. It is destroying the containers that God was supposed to live in. It is clearing the ground. Because something older than Christianity is trying to surface, and it cannot do so while the Christian architecture is still standing. The white light appears in the deepest sessions, not the warm golden light of near-death experience accounts. A cold, absolute, obliterating white. In Kabbalistic tradition, this is the Ein Sof, the limitless, the infinite, the divine before it took any form whatsoever. Not God as a being, God as the absence of all limitation, the void that contains all possibility. JESSUP is not hallucinating. He is remembering. The visions are not his imagination generating content. They are the deepest layers of the collective human psyche surfacing through the crack that the tank and the compound have opened. He is seeing what every mystic, every shaman, every prophet has seen when they went far enough in. The same images, the same archetypes, the same terrifying, beautiful, annihilating light. The question is what you do when you see it. Most traditions say, receive it, surrender to it, let it dissolve you. JESSUP tries to study it. Prometheus, the Faustian bargain and forbidden knowledge. Every culture that has ever existed has a story about what happens when a human being reaches for divine knowledge. The Greeks called him Prometheus. He stole fire from the gods, not warmth, not comfort, but the transformative power that separates the human from the animal. And the gods punished him not because fire was dangerous, but because the act of stealing it was a declaration that human beings would not accept the limits placed on them, that we would reach past our designated boundary, that we would take what we were told we could not have. The punishment was eternal and physical, chained to a rock, an eagle eating his liver every day, the liver regenerating every night so the consumption could begin again, the body as the site of punishment for the transgression of the mind. This is JESSUP's arc encoded in mythology. He reaches for the fire, he takes what he was told not to take. And the punishment comes not from outside, not from God, not from the government, not from his colleagues, but from within, from the body itself, from the evolutionary memory that his experiments have disturbed. The Faustian bargain operates the same way. Faust doesn't make a deal with the devil because he is evil. He makes it because he is brilliant and the limits of human knowledge are intolerable to him. He would rather have the answer and pay the price than live within the boundary and never know. This is not a character flaw, it is a specific kind of courage, or a specific kind of madness. The line between them is thinner than it appears. What the film understands, and what both myths encode, is that forbidden knowledge is not forbidden because it is dangerous to society. It is forbidden because it is dangerous to the self. The fire burns the one who carries it. The knowledge transforms the one who holds it. And the transformation is not always survivable. JESSUP is Prometheus. He is Faust. He is every human being who ever decided that the truth mattered more than the cost of finding it. The film does not condemn him for this. It simply shows you what it costs. The creature, devolution, regression, and the primal self. And now the body pays. After the ceremony, after the visions, after the escalating sessions in the tank with the compound, JESSUP begins to change physically. He emerges from the tank as something that is not quite a man, an ape man, a hominid. 6 million years of evolution running in reverse, the body regressing toward its oldest form as the mind reaches toward its oldest memory. He walks out into the city, into the zoo, and the primal self, the thing that lived before language, before law, before the social contract, does what primal things do. It hunts, it kills. It cannot be reasoned with because reason is a recent invention and this thing is ancient. This is the collective unconscious made flesh. Jung described the collective unconscious as the layer of the psyche that is not personal, not built from individual experience, but inherited from the entire history of the species. The 6 million-year-old self that JESSUP is trying to access is not a metaphor. It is the deepest stratum of what we are. The part that remembers being prey, the part that remembers killing with its hands, the part that existed before it knew it existed. The question the film is asking through this image is profound and deeply uncomfortable. What if the thing at the bottom of the human mind is not God? What if it is not light and love and divine consciousness? What if you strip away everything civilization built, the language, the ethics, the self-awareness, and what you find underneath is just an animal? Hungry, violent, alone. This is also the Dionysian terror. Dionysus is the god of ecstasy, but ecstasy in its original Greek meaning is ekstasis, to stand outside oneself, to be displaced from the self. The Dionysian rites were not celebrations. They were controlled destructions of the ego, the social self, the civilized mask, and the mythology is full of warnings about what happens when the Dionysian force is unleashed without a container. The Maenads tearing Orpheus apart, Agave killing her own son in a frenzy she cannot remember. JESSUP's regression is the Dionysian force without a container. The ceremony gave it a container, the tank gave it a container, but he kept pushing past the container's limits. And when the container breaks, what spills out is not enlightenment. It is 6 million years of hunger. Ego, death, and the void. The regression was not the bottom. The regression was the second to last layer. The last layer is the void. JESSUP dissolves. Not metaphorically. The film shows you his body losing coherence, becoming formless, becoming light, becoming the primordial matter that existed before matter organized itself into anything recognizable. He is no longer a man. He is no longer an ape. He is no longer even a living thing in any sense the word normally carries. He is the stuff that existed before life decided to become life. This is ego death in its most absolute form. Not the dissolution of the personality, not the quieting of the inner voice, the complete annihilation of the boundary between self and everything else. The mystics call it union with the divine. The Kabbalists call it the Ein Sof. The Buddhists call it nirvana, the blowing out of the flame of individual existence. Every tradition that has ever mapped the furthest reaches of consciousness has a name for this place, and every tradition agrees on one thing: you cannot stay there and remain human. The Ouroboros, the snake eating its own tail, is the symbol of this moment, the end consuming the beginning, evolution and devolution revealed as a single cycle. JESSUP went forward in his mind and backward in his body and arrived at the same place, the origin point, the moment before the first distinction was made, before there was a self to know that it existed. Solve et coagula, dissolve and recombine. The alchemical operation requires the complete dissolution of the original substance before the new form can emerge. Jessup has dissolved completely. There is nothing left of Edward Jessup, the Harvard scientist, the wounded child, the failed husband, the obsessive seeker. There is only the void, and the void begins to pull Emily in with the body as the site of spiritual experience. We need to stop here and name something the film understands that most spiritual traditions spend enormous energy trying to deny. The body is not the obstacle to spiritual experience. The body is the location of it. Every transformation in this film happens in the flesh. The visions are not purely mental events. They produce physical changes. The regression is not a psychological state. It restructures bone and tissue. The dissolution is not a metaphor. It unmakes the physical form entirely. The body is not the cage that traps the soul. The body is the instrument through which the soul experiences anything at all. This is what the ancient mystery schools understood, and what modern spirituality consistently ggets wrong. The Eleusinian mysteries involved fasting, physical exhaustion, the drinking of the kykeon, a psychoactive brew, and a night of terror and complete darkness. The body was prepared, stressed, altered, and then the vision came. Not despite the body, through it. Jessup's punishment, the devolution, the physical regression, the dissolution, is not separate from his spiritual quest. It is the spiritual quest expressing itself in the only language that cannot be intellectualized. He can think his way around anything. He can construct a philosophical framework for any experience, but he cannot think his way out of his body turning into an ape. He cannot theorize his way back from primordial matter. The body forces the truth that the mind refuses. Every transgression is written into the flesh. Every boundary crossed leaves a mark. The body keeps the score. And in altered states, the body keeps it in the most literal, visceral, undeniable way possible. This is also why love saves him. Not as an idea, not as a philosophical position, as a physical act. Emily touches him, her hands on his dissolving form. The body remembering what the void has forgotten, that it belongs to someone, that it is known, that it is held. The spirit is saved through the flesh, not in spite of it. The Gnostic framework. Now we can name the philosophical backbone that the entire film is built on. Gnosticism is one of the oldest and most suppressed spiritual traditions in Western history. The early Christian church spent considerable energy destroying it, burning its texts, executing its teachers, declaring it heresy, which tells you something about how threatening its central idea was. The central idea is this: the material world was not created by the true God. It was created by a lesser being, the demiurge, a craftsman god who built the physical universe as a kind of prison. And inside every human being there is a spark of the true divine light, the pneuma, trapped in matter, longing to return to its source. The entire purpose of human existence in the Gnostic framework is the liberation of that spark, the return of the divine fragment to the divine whole. Knowledge is the instrument of liberation, not faith, not obedience, not ritual. Gnosis, direct experiential knowledge of the divine, the kind that cannot be handed to you by a priest or a book, the kind you have to find yourself, in the dark, alone, at the cost of everything you thought you were. Jessup is a Gnostic saint. He rejects the demiurge, the false god, the god of his father's cancer and unanswered prayers, and goes looking for the true light. He uses the tank and the compound as his instruments of gnosis. He pushes past every boundary, pays every price, dissolves every layer of constructed identity in pursuit of the divine spark he believes is buried at the bottom of human consciousness. And he finds it, the white light, the Ein Sof, the void that is not empty but full of everything that has not yet become anything. The tragedy and the Gnostic irony is that the spark cannot be held by a single self. The moment you reach it, you cease to be the self that was reaching. The liberation the Gnostics sought was not personal enlightenment. It was the dissolution of the personal entirely, the drop returning to the ocean. Jessup wanted to find God and keep himself. The Gnostic path does not offer that deal. It offers something far more radical and far more terrifying. The film is a Gnostic text. The tank is the instrument of gnosis. The visions are the stripping away of the demiurge's architecture. The void is the true divine. And the ending, the return to human form through love, is the film's one departure from pure Gnostic logic. Because pure Gnostic logic has no return. The spark dissolves, the self ends, the light goes home. Ken Russell gave us something the Gnostics didn't, a way back. Emily, the union, and love as the only anchor. Emily enters the vortex. Not because she understands what is happening, not because she has a plan, because he is dissolving and she will not let go. This is the alchemical conjunction, the hieros gamos, the sacred marriage. In alchemical tradition, the great work cannot be completed by a single operator. It requires the union of opposites, the masculine and the feminine, the solar and the lunar, the seeker and the one who waits. Neither is complete without the other. The gold cannot be produced from one element alone. JESSUP spent the entire film treating Emily as a distraction from the work. She is the work. She was always the work. The thing he was looking for in the tank, the truth beneath the self, the thing that remains when everything constructed is stripped away, was not in the void. It was in the room with him the whole time. Emily is his anima. In Jungian psychology, the anima is the feminine principle within the masculine psyche, the part of the self that connects to feeling, to relationship, to the embodied present moment. JESSUP's anima is not undeveloped. It is exiled. He sent it away every time it tried to pull him back from the edge. He chose the tank over the marriage, the experiment over the children, the void over the woman standing in front of him telling him she loved him. And when he finally dissolves completely, when there is nothing left of Edward JESSUP, no identity, no memory, no self, it is her voice that reaches him, her hands that find him in the formlessness, her refusal to accept that he is gone, after everything. After the seven-eyed lamb and the ape-man and the 6 million-year-old hunger and the white obliterating void. 3 words. The simplest sentence in the language. The one that requires no philosophy, no framework, no instrument of gnosis. I love you. That's what he says. And what he realizes to save them. This is the film's answer to every question it asked. Is there a self beneath the self? Yes. And it knows who it loves. Is there a truth older than consciousness? Yes. And it is not in the void. It is in the moment two people refuse to let go of each other in the dark. The Gnostic seeks liberation from matter. The alchemist seeks the transformation of matter. The mystic seeks union with the divine. Altered State says, all of those paths lead to the same place. And the place is not a tank. It is not a ceremony. It is not a vision. It is another person. Holding on. The screen was the sigil. The sigil worked. And the answer was never in the dark. It was always in the light of someone who refused to leave.